Hello, this is Maria Hayes, my mother, a former teacher, and I'm going to be interviewing her today. First question, how long have you been teaching?
I've taught about 13 years at Jefferson County School District in Colorado. Prior to that, I worked in New York in the Syracuse area, where I also taught for about 8 years.
And what sort of grades did you teach?
Back in the Syracuse area, I taught 6th grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and substituted in many different grades all the way through high school. When I came to Colorado, I worked in 3rd grade and then 4th grade.
Alrighty. Why did you want to become a teacher?
Well, after dibble and dabbling with a lot of different areas, I decided to try teaching and just fell in love with it. I never really had a background with kids, nor did I have to take care of younger kids, but as soon as I entered the field, all of a sudden, everything just gelled together. All of my labs that I wrote when I was in science classes turned into easy lesson plans, and it just came really natural. I felt like
Alright. How do you feel about standardized testing?
well, in and of itself, I would say you need something to measure growth. Now, as far as standardized testing, if it's all the same kind of testing throughout the United States, just to make sure that our students are learning, I agree with that. But when they start to overtest the children and then the educational system feels the pressure to meet those standards, sometimes I'm not in agreement with that. So I think there needs to be some kind of testing to measure growth. However, I think what the state's been doing has been over-testing. Each district seems to be over-testing again. We have this pendulum swing in education. What happened about 25 years ago continues to happen. We keep swinging back and forth. So standardized testing, now we're getting back to accountability and testing, but a little bit on the over-testing side. Again, in the elementary level, that's where I've been.
At what point do you consider it over-testing?
What do I consider testing?
Yeah.
Well, I consider a week-long test, as the state test is in 4th grade, on computers, which require technology skills, as well as having all computers working. And then it was a whole entire week. Our entire school seemed to shut down for almost a month. We couldn't use the computer lab. We needed to be careful of our bandwidth, even using smartboard technology, all because of testing and accommodating kids, taking over an entire month of school.
And you feel like that was detrimental to the kids' learning as well?
Absolutely. Consider all the curriculum and content I could have covered within that month if I had use of my library. Okay, granted, the librarian would come into my classroom. However, getting computers and using those for research tools wasn't working. An entire month. Imagine what they could have learned in an entire month, especially towards the end of the year when you've presented all the skills that they've been working on and you have projects that they're working on. So that's always disappointing to me that the school system can't seem to come up with a better way to test in a shorter period of time. I also think that those testing things, or the tests, are almost too long. It's about 2 hours after the school day for over a week, and that was just reading and writing.
So you feel that No Child Left Behind had a negative effect on your children?
It has negative effects and positive effects. I think it kept everyone on the ball as far as you need to make sure these kids are reading. But the problems come to hand when you have a child that is not going to make that growth. Say a 3rd grader is not going to pass that reading test. Perhaps they have an IQ of 80. Perhaps they're just not ready. Perhaps they're not in a good specialized program that'll help them catch up. Imagine an average size reader or average reader is going to certainly make a good make growth, make good progress over a year and can be tested and held accountable for that. But in some cases, you've got factors such as teachers, such as parents, such as hunger, such as survival that come into play in these different socioeconomic regions or areas. So therefore, it's hard to measure growth at a certain point for every single kid. It's like asking every animal in the African kingdom to be able to scale up a tree. Now, so the monkey's got it. Can the elephant scale up as well? No. The elephant needs to be tested in a different way. So, but again, I think there does need to be a base that all kids need to reach in each grade level or at each grade when they're ready. So developmentally, every kid deserves at least 1 year's growth if they're in my classroom, if not more. However, there are special cases. And again, I've taught in 2 different socioeconomic regions. One, 99% free lunch. On the other hand, no free lunch. So I've had 2 extremes and a little bit in the middle. So I've seen a lot, especially when you have special ed kids that truly have some learning disabilities. But accommodations have come a long way to help these kids. But one size does not fit all.
Was there really no free lunch at all in Evergreen?
Could you repeat your question? I couldn't hear you.
Was there really no free lunch at all in Evergreen?
There were no free lunches the time period at that one particular elementary.
Yeah.
Those kids were coming from 2-parent families. They came in reading. They went to Belize for vacation. Okay.
All right. And what's your opinion on the importance of assigning grades?
Well, if you're talking about grades throughout the entire year, the purpose is to communicate at benchmark periods. Let me just say, though, the grade at every quarter or every semester shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, because the whole entire time that they're in my classroom, they should know exactly where they are and how they're scoring and how to do better, how to meet grade level, how to meet upgrade.
The kids should know.
Or if they're struggling, they also need a plan. So grades at the end of a year are no surprise. Grades at the end of a semester are no surprise in my 4th grade classroom.
And you feel as if the kids know very well where they are?
Absolutely. Because in my classroom, there's a lot of self-evaluation, team evaluation, writing conferences, all throughout the process of projects, speeches, reading, everything. There's, let me say for a shorter phrase, check where they're meeting with teachers or meeting with a group, small group, large groups, whatever. They know exactly where they are.
And you mentioned that there was a classroom environment in which the kids did self-evaluation and they always knew where they were. What type of classroom environment do you try to create?
Exactly. One, learning can be fun. Learning sparks your curiosity. Sometimes you just need to know certain things. So learning is fun. And the classroom should be a place where students feel they can take a risk. They could write something about their grandmother or write about something that happened to them, and they shouldn't feel mocked in my classroom. They should feel like they're open for advice. How do you give advice? How do you take advice? How do you get better at things? What other strategies can you try? What should your brain be thinking? So I think my classroom is open to students' suggestions as well as guidance, especially for objectives that I know I can get my kids to, and thinking skills as well.
And where do you feel that you are in relation to the children? Do you feel as if you're on a similar level with them, or do you feel as if you are the authority in the classroom?
Well, in 4th grade, I'm going to have to say I'm going to be the authority in 10th. However, let students feel like they're part of the decision making and processes. We come up with a list of ideas about what workshop should sound like. How do you get the teacher's attention when you need help? What else can you do in the time period I'm with small groups to get help in the classroom? What are proper procedures? So if you set up the classroom for the good first few months on procedures and having the kids have a say in what they're doing, in what their interests are, where they sit, who gets jobs, you give responsibility, you have a good working class. So I think when you ask me what my role is as a teacher, certainly facilitator, certainly one with objectives, certainly one that never sits at their desk. So I'm constantly observing, I'm constantly fine-tuning situations, behaviors. Sometimes I'll break in the middle of something and say, we need to have a meeting about this. Let's brainstorm some ideas about da-da-da-da-da-da. So if you take the time for classroom management and decision making with your students and critical thinking and truly taking into account their advice, their ideas, then I think everybody feels like they're part of the team, they're part of the classroom. They have a say in it. They have a say in their learning. But of course, in the back of my mind, I always have the objective I'm going to make sure get across. However, I get surprised every year. Thank the kids for teaching me so many different things as well.
You mentioned that some of the kids have jobs in the classroom. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? The system.
Oh, absolutely. Say I have 20 students in my classroom. We make up about 12 jobs. And you know what? 24 hours. I've had 28 students or more. So I usually make about 14 jobs. We come up with things like teacher assistant, lunch count graph holder, weather reporter, computer monitor, smart board fixer, anything, doorknob washer. So I mean, everything, desk checker, one goes around and checks people's desks. Truly, I don't have to do much management after I teach each kid the job. What happens is I come up with these jobs, and then they pull out of a hat a particular job, and then they have to describe the job. So they get into their first writing assignment in the school. Then I put their names on paper clips or something, and I place them on the board. So every week, half of the class is on one board, and half the class is on the other side. So say it's assistant's turn. Usually it's two kids, in case somebody's absent. So 2 kids will be assistants, but they don't stay a pair every week. After the week, we switch up the clip, and everybody gets another person that's their partner. So they work together. They can train something from the last week. They have job description cards that got every week on Mondays, sometimes on Fridays, so they could train them. It depends where we were in the school season. So they look forward to that. Ooh, what am I this week? Am I the teacher's assistant? Am I the paper passer? Am I the pencil sharpener? So, and if they had a person that could take over the job by themselves or ask the substitute. That was one of the jobs too, to be the substitute. And truly, the kids came up with many jobs. One year, somebody came up with a decorator, so they got to decorate one of the walls every week. So, it's great because they can come up with the thing too.
I do remember that when I came to visit, all the kids had. And so, but you feel as if that got the children more invested in their own learning?
Yes, and learning, especially their social behavior, how to have a job, how to know what the job is, how to ask for help when you need it, how to train another student, things like that. They were also incorporating a lot of math skills. For instance, the lunch graph was made out of magnets, and then we would talk about what the mode was for the day. Most kids thought, well, why do you think that? Or the weather graph required them to go to the computer and do the moon phase and graph the high and the low forecast and graph that on a continuous school year on the wall. And we would talk about trends. So many of these things also taught math skills, social skills, speaking skills, and leadership skills on a basic level off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more.
Right. All right. So now we're going to switch kind of into discussing the traditions, the three traditions of schooling. And as you see it, what are the pros and the cons of the traditional tradition?
When you talk about traditional, all I can think of is when I was in college and somebody said to me, traditional is when the teacher is expected to pour in the knowledge into the children's head. And I can't think of a more ridiculous way, except in high school maybe or college, where professors, perhaps by then, just pour the knowledge in, expect you to just absorb it all. So as an elementary school teacher, I am highly against that. I am an active teacher with active learners, and they're moving about because students in elementary school need to move about. It's just common knowledge about brain and how your brain functions, as far as being at that age level, 10, and having to sit in their seat the whole time and just read books. Well, guess what? We're teaching them how to read, and then we're teaching them why they're reading. So traditionally, the cons are endless in my book. But the pros, I guess, it gives a basic part of knowledge. It might progress the American culture, like all kids should read. I don't know, why mosquitoes buzz in people's ears, or, Dr. Seuss books, like it's a bummer when you talk to somebody about Gulliver's Travels and they've never read it because it wasn't in their reading repertoire. So I guess traditionally I see that as it's only the student's responsibility, and only when a student can picture their own brain and know they're absorbing the information, and those students being able to use that information and synthesize it. So, does that mean anything in teaching? Well, yeah, it does a lot. But anyways, that was a bad example. But I guess it takes a special kind of to be able to sit there and have information poured into them the whole time. I think learning is interactive because our world is interactive.
All right. And what do you see the pros and cons of the developmental tradition?
Well, I think we have too much history in developmental. And so through Piaget, we learned at different levels, kids are able to do things, critical reasoning, around 9 and 10-year-olds. Not to say other kids can't do it earlier or other kids can do it later. But as you look at it, you need to know how to be an inferrer when you're reading. Well, sometimes kids are too literal and you have to wait until they gather enough of the background information to be able to have a deeper type of thinking. So developmentally, yeah, you got to see where kids are. You have to make them to the next level. And students should be uncomfortable enough that they are learning and they learn those strategies. So developmentally, I think there's a lot of pros to that. There's mastery of skills. There's grouping, which can make groups go faster when there's not some average student in the class. However, the low average kid gains a lot by being around students that are a little bit higher level as well. So because that's probably most of my training, I really think developmentally and pushing those kids to the critical level of thinking and knowing how their brain works is really important. I found in 4th grade they were ready to take metacognition. We actually had a board in our classroom called metacognition. We explained what it was. We showed strategies. We taught students that their brain may feel like this. These are brain breaks we would take every 20 minutes. How do you know you know? That was one of my favorite things in 4th grade. So the kids would say, oh, the answer is this. Well, that's great. But how did you get the answer? And how do you know you know? I think that was really important. That's been through my teaching for a very long time. It's important for a student to know how they know they're right, how they know they're wrong, and what they need to do about them. So I guess that leads into your next question, which might be about another curriculum after developmental.
Yes, Maria, that would be the critical tradition. What do you see as
Mm-hmm.
the pros and cons of that?
It's a little when I was reading some of that background on the critical curriculum. I kind of thought it was with what I was teaching, where you need to find out where your kids are and then teach them to go beyond that. And I really think in fourth grade, third grade, even sixth grade, obviously, kids were learning not only problem solving skills, but problem solving strategies and being explained to their own thinking. And trying to find out where they were going wrong, maybe in a process of division, why that was wrong. Sometimes it's at a simple level, perhaps like in math, you don't understand basic facts and how the number system works. So that's where their gaps are. So that's where you try and fill in gaps so that they can easily use that information, those big math facts, to manipulate problems, to solve real world problems. So I guess critical, I think some of the pros are, and the cons are, the pros are that it's, the kids are learning longer term projects, developing things, working with the teacher more to fine tune where they're trying to get to. They can work with partners, but these projects take a lot of time and a lot of patience and a lot of knowledge to get the kids to each level, to meet with each kid or each group, to get them through a process of what they want to do. But it has to be a deeper level thinking. That's how I read it.
So in your opinion, what you used to say, which tradition is the most effective overall? If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, it'd have to be an active one. So if you're talking that critical curriculum is an active learning, a lot of engagement on the teacher and students, then I would say that is the most effective in the elementary grades. Because kids at the elementary level are full of energy. And what a better way to learn than being hands-on and being more involved and choosing your own type of learning. So if I say maybe the objective is problem solving, well, there's many different problems to be solved. So they could come up with their own content as long as I keep working on those critical thinking skills and I'm able to monitor those.
And what would you say which tradition is closest to what you employ in your classroom when you taught fourth grade?
Well, I'll have to say definitely not tradition. Right. So, yeah, it was probably a blend of developmental and critical.
And just one last question is, perhaps you could describe what you think would be the best way to educate American children in terms of testing, curriculum, how you teach, anything you can think of in that regard.
If I knew the answer to that, I think I would be rich. However, I've thought about this, and if I had more time and more energy, I might even approach this. Do you know how doctors have internships and teachers have student teachers, correct? Yeah. All right. But I don't think student teaching and being in scenarios really is enough training for some teachers. I think they should almost be interned for a year or 2 or 3, where they work with maybe a few teachers, but very good teachers, very masterful teachers, ones that know how to generate data enough to make groups and enough to set objectives. However, if one teacher gets 28 clients every year, and they range in so many different ways, I think number one is the class sizes should be smaller, maybe not more than 15. Okay, and with that small classroom, also better teacher training, younger teacher training, a more efficient teacher training, as well as more parenting classes about an involved parent.
The parents within classes?
Oh, I think so. The more involved a parent is, you can't go up the top. seen that too. But the more involved a parent is, and the more a parent can support what's going on in education and has a say in it as well, I think the better it is.
Okay.
What was your question? I don't even think I answered it.
It was describe what you think would be the best way to educate American children.
Right. I wish I had the answer. I just think it would be great if I could have taken my own kids every day, all day on trips. You know, I know what they should know at what each grade level, up to about sixth grade or so. I wish I was the one, and I had so much money, I could take them on field trips. We could do real problem solving in the real world. You know, just imagine what some parents teach their own kids at home. Can you imagine if someone trained in the philosophies, or I don't know, just more involved? So I wish I knew the answer for that. I really do.
So you would say that the best way to make a better classroom is to take them out of the classroom.
in a way. Take them out as much as you can from the classroom. Give them experiences. That's talk about them and discuss. That's, I think, good learning. You can't become a mountain man unless you're out in the mountains with the men learning how to do it all the time, every day. You're not going to learn to be a great hockey player unless you're on the ice. You skate every day with someone pushing you to the next. You never would have become a ping pong player unless I pushed you until you surpassed me almost consistently now.
Almost consistently. Well, thank you for your time, Maria, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Goodbye.